Southampton 1. Let's just take a look at what that means to the table for Southampton. They're done, aren't they? That's the end of them. They are currently sitting on 6 points. Meanwhile, for Manchester United, that victory lifts them above West Ham and Spurs up to 12th in the table. Julien Laurens joins us. We're from Jules in a moment, but Stevie, you're watching this game. How would you describe it overall?
There's absolutely no way Southampton deserved to not get at least a draw out of this game. They were by far the better side. United had a good 10-minute spell at the beginning, as you would expect. But after that, they got outplayed by a team who haven't won away from home all season. And at half-time, if you're United, you're scratching your head. The second half, generally, United put a little bit of pressure on, but never really opened them up. And then, of course, a couple of late goals, add on top of the third one, makes the scoreline look as though this was comfortable. It was anything but comfortable. And the only thing we learned about this game today was that every single thing we thought about United before those last 2 results against Liverpool and Arsenal, that's exactly who they are. Those 2 results are just fortunate, because today they were really, really fortunate to get 3 points.
Ahmed Diallo saved their bacon.
Is it that easy to say?
Yes.
Like without him, we're having a completely different
Pretty much.
Yep.
Pretty much. This is a Southampton side they've one win this season, 3 draws, I believe that's right. 6 points. 6 points. This was going to be, but for Ahmed Diallo, the lowest point of a low season and a low time in this club's history. This was probably going to be the lowest. Primarily because Southampton have been so bad. So bad. I mean, they might not get... If they get to double figures in points, the way the mistakes they make, they're going to be lucky. And they, as Stevie said, outplayed United for long periods. Their manager said it in the interview after the game, for 75 minutes, Man United made them look like they were a sort of mid-table side. And then all these mistakes came back, and that's one of the reasons they're down. And if you watch Southampton, they make mistake after mistake. They try and play out from the back. They get caught, thinking back to the Chelsea game down in the South Coast. It's mistake after mistake, and that's what sends you down to the Championship. But, again, as somebody mentioned a game the other day, I can't remember who it was, if you swapped the shirts on these teams, you wouldn't think that's Man United and that was Southampton. And I kind of think, and Ruben Amorim said yesterday, or the day before, was his press conference, he said, I'm going to learn more about my side today than I learned in the Arsenal and Liverpool games. And he was right. He was right. When their backs are to the wall, they can somewhat put up a fortress of a decent shape. When they're at home playing a much, much weaker side, and they are asked and sort of forced by the home crowd to try and come out and play, they are utterly horrendous. And Ahmed Diallo saved one of the most embarrassing results that they've had for many a year.
But it shouldn't have been like that, should it, Jules? They're riding this wave of optimism. Obviously, Arsenal, Liverpool going into this game, Southampton bottom of the table. If you were to set up the perfect picture for Manchester United to kick on, surely this should have been it.
I guess so, although we've said all along, it's easier to put together a very good, strong, well-drilled defensive structure. You go 5-4-1 like they did against Liverpool and Arsenal, and then you wait, and then you counter when you can. And that's exactly what they did in those 2 games, and it can work, especially away from home, especially against teams that are better than you. But like I think Stevie said earlier, when you have the ball then, and Craig too, to be fair, you have the ball and you have to attack, and you really have no idea. And let's be honest, they scored 3 goals. The 3 goals that Ahmed scored are all down to him, and that 1-2 with Eriksen, I guess we can give them that. But apart from collectively, there was just nothing. There was really some patterns of play that we can recognize and we see what they're working on. There was really like a collective move where you could see the runnings and you could see the triangles, or you could see there was just none of that. I agree with the boys. I thought it was embarrassing for most of it. And really, I know those 2 results against Arsenal and Liverpool were good results for them. But really, they're 12th in the table, and they play like a team that are 12th in the table. That was the 10th goal they conceded on corners this season, the most in the Premier League. 10, I think 8 of those 10s have come since Amorim took over. He had his assistant Carlos Fernandez, who's supposed to be the set-piece guy, standing up, like they all do now before a set-piece is taken. And he looked clueless, and his players were clueless too. And it was an embarrassing goal to concede again. And I just think that Ruben Amorim is smart enough to know that this was bad, and that really there's really nothing to celebrate apart from the hat-trick from Ahmad.
You've got to give him his due though, Ahmad Diallo. He's, hat-trick apart, whenever he gets it...
Well, he's exciting, at least he does.
He picks it up towards the edge of the box, and his first thought, almost every time, is to drive at a defender, is to push the full-back back, is to push the back line back, and that commits people, that gets a back line sort of backtracking, and at least he's got that, and the finishing, so that is something to cling on to. But as for the rest, I mean, Southampton at home, and it was such a struggle. I mean, if you had said to me yesterday, is it going to be perfect? Is it going to be fun to watch? I said, no, probably not, but it's probably going to be it should be pretty easy and pretty comfortable. But that was desperate. And I think that tells you exactly where they are, and, what's Ruben Amorim brought thus far that's not out with a defensive shape in big games? And the answer is, we know he plays a back three. We know he likes to play generally two guys behind the front man a little narrower. What are we seeing in terms of a change in the football from Ten Hag? And I know it's very early, but you can go in and make a difference.
But he doesn't have the play. He doesn't have the players to play the system.
So this is it. This is the conversation we're going to be having now for the rest of time.
And the problem is, I'm saying that he doesn't have the players to play this system, because people like Ahmad Diallo, they can't get him the ball. Southampton were playing out from the back and playing through Man United. Man United couldn't play through to Southampton.
Right.
So whether you've got Ahmad Diallo or anybody else, getting them the ball is a problem. And in the middle of the park, I mean, Mainoo and Ugarte were just non-existent. And then defensively, Yoro got absolutely torn apart by Sulemana. I mean, so even all the changes that Amorim made, he was forced into them because there was absolutely nothing happening. But to go back to the point, whether he plays 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 or whatever he wants to play, they don't have the talent on the field. Regardless of the system, they do not have the talent in order to take the game to anybody.
But my argument would be they are mediocre at best.
Everywhere.
But they still have much, much better players than Southampton.
Right.
So why is it so difficult against a team that have been walloped by most of the Premier League?
They got beat 5 at home a couple of weeks ago.
Why is it so difficult for this side to... Can these players not handle the unrest coming from the stands at Old Trafford when somebody gives the ball away, or when Southampton score a goal and the crowd are moaning at you? Can they not handle that? Is that where it is? I mean, it has to be something, because we might not think Ugarte and whoever and Rasmus Højlund, we might not think they're the best players, Garnacho and whoever it is, but they're better than the opposition.
Yeah. So it comes down to City. We spoke about City the other day. And basically, certainly I think it comes down to the mentality. And it has to be the same, because as you've said, on paper, they've got better players than Southampton. But if you can't produce it, that's got to do with your mentality.
Yeah.
And that's the problem they have. Do they have talent? You could probably argue yes. But they don't have the mentality that when they step on the field, particularly Old Trafford, they don't have the strength of character to take the game to the opposition.
And next up on Sunday, Jules, it's Brighton at Old Trafford.
It's a similar game, not so much today, because as we said, Southampton is one of the worst teams that we've ever seen in the Premier League, but it's a similar game to the Forest game, where United got just torn apart everywhere. It's a similar game to the Bournemouth game, where again they were just not good enough, and Amorim was struggling to keep them in the game, struggling to find solutions to what the opposition, who are better than them, really have. And I guess Brighton are still a young team, and I think maybe this is something. Old Trafford is quite an intimidating ground, as we saw today when they're pushing, etc. But really, you could clearly see a scenario where Brighton go to Old Trafford and just play them out of the park again. Because where do you go now? You've taken off Menu, Ugarte, Højlund so early in this game, half-time, start of the second half. You put Anthony on. What kind of message you send to your own dressing room by bringing Anthony at half-time or after 50 minutes? And all he did was missing that sitter that Magnan would have scored. What kind of message? The guy has never played for you. He's not good enough. Every player knows about it. And you bring him on in a game like that. I find some of Amorim's choices really, really strange. I know he's struggling, and clearly you can see his attitude on the touchline. He's just not. There's no serenity there at all. I get that, but some of the things he does, it really makes no sense.